We'll see takeaway points. Definitely, if you haven't been to Vancouver, visit the city, especially during the summertime. Obviously winter can be a little bit cold and rainy, but most likely, people who visit the city, they definitely fall in love with it.
Hey everyone, Darren here. Today, we'll take a look at the Vancouver real estate market. This episode is very special to me as I had 4 great years in Vancouver during high school and I absolutely love this city. During this interview, it brings me back a lot of good memories as well. In recent years, a lot of foreign investors are interested in Vancouver real estate market, and we think it's a great idea to bring someone at the forefront to tell you more about it. Today's guest, Aaron, is a real estate agent from Vancouver. He helps clients on the selling side and the buying side and specializes in the Vancouver metro area. We hope you like this show and have a good one. Thank you. Hey Aaron, so welcome to the show.
Hi, Darren.
Yeah, so this is exciting because I used to live in Vancouver and I was in high school in Vancouver, so that's like a 1.5 decade by now. And then so I know you through Jerry, my ex-colleague from Vancouver. So this is good because I want to kind of nostalgic a little bit about Vancouver, what's going on, because Vancouver has been a very hot market and a lot of people here I know in Hong Kong are also from Vancouver as well. And then I want to share with them what's going on, and then maybe for them they'll think about Vancouver a little bit, miss home a little bit. So I'm really happy to have you here today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So before that, right, would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yeah, so my name is Aaron Wong. I was actually from Vancouver, so I'm very familiar with the city. Pretty much lived here for my whole entire life. And in terms of real estate, I started doing it actually straight out of university. So I've been working on it for almost coming up to my 5th year now, actually. So about 5 years in the business. And work in a medium-sized brokerage. We're mostly residential focused, and we're located in Kerrisdale. So we specialize with a lot of clients in the area, but in a brokerage we also have agents who specialize in the Tri-Cities and other parts of Vancouver as well.
I see. So for some audience that may not know much about the different neighborhood in the Greater Vancouver area, which obviously it'll be great if you can describe a little bit about the Greater Vancouver area. Would you mind telling them about, how is the neighborhood like, and then where the overseas investors tend to invest?
Yeah, for sure. So Vancouver, how you would think about it is that we're actually in a Greater Vancouver area is what they usually call it. And within the Greater Vancouver area, we actually have a few different cities. So one of them, of course, being the city of Vancouver. So that's the main city center of Greater Vancouver. And then it branches out into other cities such as Burnaby to the east, Richmond to the south, and then you also have the Tri-Cities, which is further to the east, and that's around Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, and also Port Moody. So usually I find that overseas investors, they tend to focus, in Metro Vancouver a lot. So that would be in the, city of Vancouver, Burnaby, as well as the Richmond areas, just because, those are the areas with the most density in the redevelopment right now.
I see. So a lot of few topics, a few people around my circles always keep talking about Vancouver real estate. And then what's the reason behind this trend that is booming recently? And then how do you think it will evolve in the next couple of years?
Well, right now, I think a lot of people see Vancouver as very attractive because, first of all, you lived in Vancouver before, the lifestyle here is very healthy, relaxed. We have clean air, clean water, a lot of cultural diversity. And also, I find that, we have quite a few good, schools here. And, a lot of people, when they move here, it doesn't have to, from any parts of the world, they can kind of feel at home in, certain neighborhoods, one or another. So from the trend, I think, especially in this past year, we had a lot of, investors, especially from Asia, Hong Kong, and, they're just looking to relocate here just because they just like the city.
I see. I always remember it's the Vancouver lifestyle is Lululemon and good vibe. There's no problems, really. Relaxing, everything is very similar. The weather in the winter is a bit gloomy sometimes, but summer is beautiful, it's paradise. So, by being said, right, do you think there are some areas in Vancouver is a bit overrated or overpriced at the moment?
Well, right now it's kind of interesting because we just came out of a 3-month city lockdown, and then the real estate market is kind of starting to pick up again. But in general, I mean, overrated. A lot of investors tend to focus on West Vancouver and Vancouver West, just because being a more higher end and prestige area. So even until today, when we had the market peak back in 2016, 2017, some of the prices are still fairly overinflated in those areas. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that necessarily it's overhyped, but it's just, some of the pricing, you have to be careful what you're buying into, because a lot of the investors are trying to, maybe liquidate some assets, and then, you may or may not be getting the best deal depending on what homes you're looking for.
I see. So just now you mentioned, right? A lot of people are, moving to Vancouver, they're moving different places and stuff like that. So do your majority of your investors tend to be, moving there? And also too, right, with that, how we suggest differently for investors that are planning to be either self-use or investment only?
Well, I work with a couple of different groups. So some of them, they're mainly based overseas and they're looking for investment-only properties in the Vancouver area. And so these investors, we tend to focus more on the numbers, rental return, rental stability, and kind of lower vacancies. Whereas, there's another group of investors where they plan to purchase a home here, whether or not their children are coming over for school, or they maybe eventually plan to retire or live in Vancouver part-time. So with clients like these, there's a few different focuses. Of course, the main element being, the overall value of the property, but also it becomes a lifestyle too, because we have so many different neighborhoods. It really depends on, what works for them as a lifestyle, what neighborhoods they prefer. And, usually this is more of a, emotional purchase because, they do plan to live in the property. So a little bit of mix of both clients, a little bit different approach depending on whether it's just a pure investment or, investment/principal residence.
I see. Yeah, I've done a lot of this interview so far, and I always want to have an episode that we can deep dive into the cities. I was in my head was we're thinking about maybe have a Google map, we share screen, and then you can walk through the block and street with me. But something that we can do in the next episode in the future. But then let's go back to this. Because I think that for a lot of investors, they just want to know where to start. Because Vancouver, obviously, some investors in Hong Kong look into Toronto, Vancouver, US, Malaysia, Singapore, a lot of different places. So this episode will be focusing on very high level picture. And obviously, in the end of this episode, we can ask them to talk to you more about what's going on in detail. So, I have another question. What are some things that overseas investors should be aware when assessing the opportunities in Vancouver? It's something that I think they'll be appreciated if you can give them some pointers for that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest part is that, being an overseas investor, because, Canada in general, especially BC, we actually have a lot of different types of taxes, especially, taxes dealing with real estate. The biggest thing is that if you're an overseas investor and you're not a citizen or a PR, there is a, additional 20% foreign buyer tax. So when you think about some of the price of the property, a 20% tax is actually quite a big premium. Right. So then I would say, first of all, it's best to talk to, of course, a real estate professional, and then they can suggest you ways to structure your purchase in order to, minimize the actual closing costs and other aspects of, purchasing the investment property.
I see. So go back to that, right? Because tax is obviously a big subject, and a lot of people will always be like, okay, tax, how much is this? So just now you mentioned, right? I heard there's a new high-end home tax. What's that about?
Okay, so the high-end home tax is funny they call it that because whenever you're purchasing a property in Vancouver or in the Metro Vancouver area, they have what you call a property transfer tax. So then the buyer actually has to pay the government a tax to transfer the property to their name. So this is the buyer bearing this cost. And so traditionally, these taxes, they're tiered, of course, just like our normal income taxes. And what the government decided to do in, I think, February 2018 was that they added another tier to the property transfer tax. So normally, let's say you're buying a house, $2-3 million, you're paying your first tier, which is the 1% on the, 200,000. And then you have the 2% from 200,000 to 2 million. And then, usually you're pretty much set unless you're buying something even higher. So now what they have is that above 3 million, there is another tax that they add another 2% on there. So you're ending up paying more of a 5% anything above $3 million, and it can really add up to the total.
Oh, that's really expensive. Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, in a short video, but if you're thinking about the more expensive the property, the more expensive the tax. It's just like, I don't know, BC also introduced a luxury car tax. It's getting kind of crazy, so.
Yeah. Well, before that too, right? I neglected a little bit. Like, would you mind telling the audience about the property transfer tax and then how it works?
Yeah. So as a property transfer tax, so usually these costs are costs that the buyer should be aware of, because when you're buying any kind of property in Vancouver, there is a property transfer tax upon closing. And the only exception is if you're buying a pre-sale property under $750,000, and if you're going to plan to live in as a principal residence, then the tax is exempt. But in most cases, you do have to pay the property transfer tax, whether you're buying a commercial property or even any kind of residential related properties.
I see. So, I think that, the law tax is a big topic, and I'm sure people can reach out to you to talk more about that in detail. I want to know more about the lockdown. How does it affect the market? What are the opportunities for investors now to look at during this time like that?
Well, it's interesting because, during the lockdown, I think a lot of people, not in Vancouver, just across a lot of the, busier metropolitan real estate areas, they expect maybe the prices to maybe go down or soften. But with Vancouver, it was actually quite resilient. There was overall less listings on the market during those few months because, of course, you just don't want to be people going to the homes to view during that time, right? But overall, I think there was less supply, but prices, they haven't really dropped much. And, with now the lockdown, coming down, people are actually coming out in waves, buying again. And we're seeing actually quite a lot of activity in the market from that.
I see. Okay, that's good. I want to know, right? Because I had lost touch in Vancouver for a while. It's kind of embarrassing to say that because I always have Vancouver in my heart. Are there any hip plays that attract a lot younger crowd that are willing to pay more in rent? And then in addition, right, what are from some few places that a lot of more commercial activities that people should look at?
Yeah, so in terms of the younger audience, of course, Vancouver downtown, it's very popular because, that's where all the nightlife and, the central business district is located. So I would say Yaletown has always been very popular amongst the younger crowd. And recently, actually, they're developing a part of East Vancouver called, around Main Street, Kingsway. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area still, Mount Pleasant. And they're building a lot more of boutique buildings there. And it seems to be attracting quite a young crowd. So that's been pretty popular with some of the younger investor clients or even people looking for a first home.
I see. I think I'm a bit selfish because I kind of want to ask for myself if one day I move back so I know where to go.
We'll definitely do a good tour of the city, before you decide.
I got a browser on the Google Maps and say, hey, which street exactly, how fast to go to different bars and clubs and stuff like that. Fun facts. This is just a joke. So, it's funny, right? So Vancouver has been promoting a lot, right? The past few years about the Silicon Valley and the Hollywood of the North, right? There's a lot of startups in Vancouver. There are a lot of people who try shooting videos and movies in Vancouver now. Is that still relevant? And how does that affect the commercial activities, regarding the residential side?
Yeah, no, it's definitely still relevant because right now, actually, Amazon is still working on their office in downtown. So then they bought that old Canada Post site, and then now they're developing into a really big Amazon office space. And of course, they have the Microsoft office that recently was set up a few years ago. I heard Facebook is moving here. Apple, pretty much like they call the Silicon Valley of the North. They're Vancouver based. And within the film industry, it's well, maybe not as active in these last few months, but in general, there's actually a lot of opportunities real estate wise, especially if you're in a short-term rental market, that a lot of these celebrities or movie stars, they're always looking for short-term housing, and it's actually quite a lucrative business for some of those landlords. Yeah.
That's good. It's something that I didn't know until I moved back away from Vancouver. I was like, oh, I didn't know it was such a big scene at the moment. So obviously real estate and mortgage comes hand to hand, right? What are some tips you have for overseas investors when it comes to getting a mortgage?
I would say for the mortgage, because right now, the Canadian banks, they're usually pretty open to foreign investment. They always have new investment programs for foreign investors. So I would say the most important thing is that you can talk to a mortgage broker, or if you have an existing banking relationship with a Canadian bank. Definitely check with them first to see your eligibility, and then you can go shopping from then on with your budget.
I see. Okay, and then I think there are a lot more questions in my head, but obviously I'll save it for next time, and then we can do this whole Google Maps browsing around, see the street going on, stuff like that for next episode. So I want to know, right? What kind of tips and advice would you have for the audience when it comes to investing in Vancouver?
I would say the biggest tip, Vancouver real estate, definitely you want to be making an informed decision, no matter what you're investing in, right? And one of the things I find with the overseas investors is that a lot of them, they don't seem to be used to working with buyer's agents, because I know that, for example, in certain markets, especially with the representation, they're worried that they have to pay more fees and all that stuff for a buyer's agent to take them around, right? But actually, how it works in Vancouver is that for you to be represented as a buying party actually doesn't cost them anything for professional advice, which is why I always recommend consult a buyer's agent to take you around, because they know what they're doing and they can make sure you're fully represented, and pretty much warn you of any kind of caveats or things with certain properties that you're planning to invest into.
I see. I think it's good, because people keep forgetting that, people keep asking around, stuff like that. Maybe just get, talk to you, obviously. That's what people should talk to you more about what's going on. So, I know, I was curious, right? Because we have phone calls a couple of times before. I just want to know, right? What else are you working on besides, being a real estate agent or, as a whole?
Right now, actually, I have a few side projects. So one of the things is that I'm also looking into small businesses. So I actually have a few clients who, they're looking to actually acquire businesses. So, being in the network where we also work with small business owners, it's been kind of something I'm working on the side as well, on top of the residential sales and whatnot.
I like that. That's awesome. I think that a lot of people in real estate keep forgetting that you have a lot of exposure to people who have the money, the capital, and then a lot of people have good ideas. So I think it's a good time, especially with recession. So a lot of good companies tend to spawn when this kind of times like that. So okay, so yeah. I think that this episode actually have a lot of really good bite-sized information. What kind of takeaway would you like the audience to have from this whole interview so far?
I would say takeaway points, definitely if you haven't been to Vancouver, visit the city, especially in the summertime. Obviously winter can be a little bit cold and rainy, but most likely, people who visit the city, they definitely fall in love with it. And in terms of real estate, it's a very popular thing here in Vancouver. And I always encourage, tour different neighborhoods, see what you like, because Vancouver, it is a lifestyle at the end of the day, right? If you plan to invest or move over to the city. And another takeaway, of course, just to reiterate, if you're planning to buy property, always have someone representing you. Do not walk into a random open house or call an agent, because most of the time you may not be, getting the best representation for the, your property purchase.
That's good. And then how would you suggest the audience reach out to you when it comes to learn more about the Vancouver real estate market?
Well, you can contact me through my brokerage website. I have my email and phone number there. For the younger audience, you can also add me on Instagram, although I should be updating that more often. But I can send you the information, after the interview.
Yeah, I'll put everything in the show notes. And then I just want to say thank you, because I know, we never met in person. We have a couple phone calls and everything. And thanks for Jerry, if he listened to this, for introducing us. And then I want to do another part 2 in the future, about really deep dive into neighborhoods, because, you know, not only for myself, I think a lot of people would appreciate it, learn, you know, like for example, Vancouver has so many different neighborhoods within even the city itself. So thanks again for your time, and I really appreciate it. And then I hope that you can join us for the next episode.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Thanks for the interview.
Nah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, talk to you later then. Good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. What do you think of this episode? Please let us know in the comment below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep in touch with us for upcoming videos. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Patina Design Lab. They're the one who help us in making our brand, art direction, as well as these videos. They are a strategic design consultancy firm to help businesses with a wide range of design services, from industrial design, branding, graphic design, art direction, content creation, and many more. They are a very talented bunch, and I urge you to check out their website for their work. That's all for today, and see you next time. Cheers.